Welcome back, everyone. My name is Daliso Jere. I am one of the hosts here at the Devoted Podcast. And today I am joined by two lovely Christian ladies. They are not only godly and faithful in their service, but they are also single. So I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves, tell us why they're here. And yeah, we'll get right into it. So ladies, go ahead.
Do you really want me to tell you why I'm here?
Yes.
Because you forced me to be here. I'm sorry.
I didn't, but anyway, yeah.
My name is Lumba. I am a kindergarten teacher. And what else am I supposed to say?
Why should we listen to you?
Because DJ really needs you too. I'm kidding. No, I can't answer that. You don't need to. I'm not worthy to be listened to, but I have been given this opportunity to be listened to. So therefore, listen to me.
By the way, she's a rock star by night. And so my name is Tamara. I am a creative and a businesswoman, but a aspiring not single mother. Wow, sorry, an aspiring stay-home mother.
Hear that, guys?
Hopefully. Why you should listen to me? By God's grace, I will have some gems. If not, yeah.
If not, we'll edit in some good gems. Yeah. Cool. All right, welcome, guys. It's actually really cool to have you. If this feels planned, it isn't. We're just gonna go for it, and Lumba isn't even prepared. But
no, I am not.
So today's topic of discussion is forgiveness. We're going to be looking at this topic from the point of view of forgiveness amongst us human beings primarily. What is forgiveness? I think that's a good place to start. We don't even need textbook definition, Oxford definitions. When you hear the word forgiveness, what comes to your mind?
Well, before this podcast, it was more of like, moving on, not holding a grudge. But then as I was reading a few hours ago, thanks to you, I found something John Piper said, and he says, forgiveness is wanting the good, not the ruin of the one who wronged you, in spite of the wrong, and then acting for their good. And for me, it was like, it doesn't end on, I forgive you, I'm moving on, and everything like that. But there's also showing this person love, not in a I'll be respectful and say hi to you, but it's also like wanting good for you, canceling your debt. Yeah.
Okay. Tamara, what comes to your mind when you hear the word forgiveness?
To forgive. I think before, actually, almost the same with her, before I actually, I guess, somewhat prepared or listened to some sermons, I thought it was just letting go. Someone did something to you and then you're like, you know what, I won't hold it against you to some degree. Not even caring, they did this, whatever. And also to some degree reconciliation, but then obviously I think what stood out to me about what it is actually canceling a debt, not holding something against someone and expecting them to pay for what they've done. And I think it hit me because I'm like, sometimes I do want them to pay for what they've done. I can forgive them, but I'm like, I hope they really feel what they've done to me in maybe one way or another, isolating them or just be like, I'm not going to talk to them as much. But like she said, actually expecting to, wanting the good for them. And you're just like, there's more to just forgiveness and just saying, it's fine, whatever. It's actually now taking another step and wanting good. And you're like, don't do that.
Okay. Absolutely. My understanding of forgiveness is very closely related to yours in the sense of owing a debt, right? And I have unfortunate experience with that where another
yes.
Podcast, but
this has to
the idea of you owe someone something, and instead of you paying them back, they're like, you know what, your debt, the money you owe me, you don't have to pay it anymore. I'm just going to cancel it out.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about forgiveness, right, is that it often isn't even tied to money.
No.
So someone has wronged you or wronged me or wronged someone, and there's usually a sort of penance that is required.
Yeah.
But you cancel it. So, for example, if the usual penance when people wrong us is to just abandon them, you know what, you're no
Yeah.
longer my friend.
Yeah.
You basically cancel out that debt. So there is no punishment where there is wrong. That's how I view forgiveness, or what comes to my mind when I think of forgiveness.
Yeah.
And so we are a Christian podcast, right? So we aren't just here to give you our opinions or our thoughts primarily, but we are trying to structure everything that we say from a biblical worldview, or from a biblical lens. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to read a number of passages that talk to or speak on forgiveness, and then we're going to move forward from there. So just trying to see what the Bible says about forgiveness. The Bible does not explicitly define forgiveness, but I do think that it implicitly defines it. So it shows us what forgiveness looks like. And because it shows us what forgiveness looks like, we're going to be able to draw lessons and principles from that.
Yeah.
So the first passage, I'm just going to be reading these one after the other, and then we'll start the conversation. So the first passage is Matthew chapter 6, verse 12. This is in the Lord's Prayer that Jesus teaches his disciples. He says, "And forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors." That's Matthew 6, verse 12. Matthew 6, verse 14 to 15 says, "For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive you your trespasses." Matthew 18, verse 21 to 22 says, "Then Peter came up and said to him, 'Lord, how often will my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times?' Jesus said to him, 'I do not say to you 7 times, but 77 times.'" Mark 11, verse 25. "And whenever you stand praying, forgive, if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also who is in heaven may forgive you your trespasses." Luke 6, verse 37. "Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven." And the last verse that I'm going to read out is Colossians 3, verse 13. "Bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive." So I know these are a lot of passages that I just read out, right? Again, they do not explicitly define forgiveness, but I do think it has something tied to what we've been talking about, right? Where there has been a wrong done, an act committed against someone, and you basically write it off or cancel it. And something that I'm going to just start with, that's very interesting about forgiveness in the Bible, is forgiveness in the Bible, forgiving one another, is predicated on the forgiveness that we have from God.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. So multiple times, again and again, we are forgiving each other because God in Christ has forgiven us. So this is, I think, a good place to start, and a reason why forgiveness is necessary. Because if we're just forgiving each other based off of our own feelings or our own experiences, then there'd be no mandate, right?
Yeah.
But again and again, the biblical example is we forgive each other because God has forgiven us.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question that we're going to ask, I'm going to pose to you guys, is this a necessary or relevant topic for us today? Why talk about forgiveness? It's just, forgive and forget, and then you move on, right? Like, why do we have to have an entire episode dedicated to the topic of forgiveness?
Okay, go first.
No, you go first.
I think
No, you go first. No, you go first.
I think I would say mainly because it's a commandment that we have been given as Christians, especially if you're a Christian, to forgive. I think I never really thought of it as a commandment. I thought of it as just something I did because, I'm Christian, so I forgive.
Yeah.
Why should I hold a grudge? But I think as I was reading, it's like you are commanded. If you do not forgive, you're actually sinning against God. And that in and of itself is a bad thing.
Yeah.
You don't want to sin against God. But then at the end of the day, it's also like forgiving someone is you being like Christ or like God, because he forgave us. Like the same thing, we love because God first loved us. So it's the same thing, we forgive because God first forgave us. And when you think about it, you wronged somebody way bigger than the person who wronged you. Like, I mean, they can wrong me, I'm a human. I wronged God, and essentially they have wronged God too. So at the end of the day, I'm like, I've been forgiven a bigger chunk by God. Why shouldn't I then also forgive? And I think we need to talk about it, because we don't really, a lot of people just assume forgiveness is just something that easily happens, or you can just do it because, it's right. But sometimes you need to really talk about these things so you can actually realize that, okay, it's not as easy as we think it is, and maybe we're not even doing it at all. So let's see what it is.
Okay, thank you. So we forgive, or the topic of forgiveness is necessary because it is a command, right? It's not something that you just go about doing. Lumba, why are we talking about forgiveness? And particularly when you're giving your answer, do you think there is a need for forgiveness in culture, whether it's like culture here in Zambia or in the world at large? Is this necessary? Is there a forgiveness or unforgiveness problem?
Yes, I think there is. But first off, yes, I think the first answer would be, because it is a command. And then also the fact that we live in a fallen world, people are going to wrong us. So now, how do you go about dealing with that, So forgiveness is definitely important, because we're called to forgive, not to hold grudges or, revenge. And then something Tammy had said, sorry, I'm going to bring it up. I know it's your point before the podcast, but she talked about, I think it's the self-love movement. And it's just like something that has also crept into the church, into Zambia. And, Zambia is like really far from the West, but like it's here now. So people can't forgive each other because of petty things. So you did this, therefore 2024, I'm going to cut you off,
Before you stole my lunchbox or something.
Never again.
So I think, it's definitely needed now, because I see even like fellow Christians, who will be like, no, I switched off my phone. I just felt triggered and everything. They don't want to hear truth. And maybe you were harsh to them and everything like that. Or well, maybe someone was harsh to me, but it's like, okay, for my mental health, I have to, stay away from this person. So most definitely we need to talk about forgiveness. We need to know how to go about it. What does the Bible say? Why is it important? How does it relate to this movement that has also like crept into the church, into our culture? Because, Zambia is like has a reserved culture. Yeah.
Or reserved background, at least.
Well,
The reserved
culture is changing.
Absolutely. I agree with all of you guys, right? So it's a command. God says, if you're a Christian, you must forgive one another. And again, this Western influence, right? Especially the self-love and self-care, the self. And there's a quote by C.S. Lewis. I'm not going to like recite it verbatim, but I think it ties really well into the self-love image of where, because we have such a high view of ourselves, right? We say, how dare he or how dare she do this to me, right? Do they not know who I am?
Yeah.
Right? I'm me, right?
It's like your blood cries out for justice.
You must pay.
You must pay.
Must be recompense.
And it's all about self, right? Because I am the most important person in my world.
Yeah.
Someone who does not go along with what I like or what I deem is the fitting way to act towards me, then I'm never gonna speak to you again.
Yeah.
I'm cutting you off. And it's sad that we're now starting to see this even in the church, in a Christian environment. And so that's why we're having this conversation. This is why this topic is necessary. And then under this question, before we move on to another question, is, do you guys, and this might make you feel uncomfortable, do you have any personal stories that could point us to the fact that forgiveness today is a problem? Personal stories. It could have been maybe you, someone wronged you, and so you had to go about. How did you go about forgiving them? Or maybe you were the guilty party, so you wronged someone, and it's fine. We all had a past. Some of us were in casinos, others were. We all have a past.
We
right?
do. No judgment.
DJ, you look so adorable in a casino. Does he even know what he's doing?
No, guys.
Focus.
What are some of the stories about or relating to forgiveness or unforgiveness?
Do you want to go first, or should I?
I
Okay,
think
can
Lumba
go.
wants to go first.
No,
You got a
I'm
lot of-
blank. That's why I'm like, do you want?
Okay, I can go first. I mean, a lot of people might relate to this. It was forgiveness in terms of after a relationship. Yeah.
Go.
I wasn't single
what
for
was
so
his
long.
name?
Let's
That's
call
his
him out.
Instagram handle.
Let's call him out.
So
We're
here's-
coming.
here's the thing.
Everybody
His
go
name
look for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you see his car. I'm just joking. So yeah, I think I never thought I didn't forgive the person until I realized that, every time I bring up, or like maybe not to everybody, but to at least maybe my friends, if we're talking about, our past relationship, I'm like so quick to be like, yeah, no, this is what this guy did and this and that. And at first I was like, no, it's because I'm just telling a story, giving advice, this is me. I'm just trying to help others not be where I was. But I realized I was actually holding on to what the person did to me. I didn't actually forgive them of what they did. I just forgave them in the sense of like, yeah, I'm a Christian. I'm gonna move on. Forgive and move on. But it was actually that I was still holding on to those things like a grudge. And I won't lie, it did make me bitter and resentful. And I didn't realize that until I think someone brought it up and I realized, actually, I haven't forgiven this person. And when I finally did, I actually felt more free. I won't lie. I was just like, okay, that's what people were talking about.
Yeah.
That's what they mean. I'm just like, when you forgive, it actually does free you up. But I think for me, it was just realizing that, even as a Christian, you can fall into not forgiving, because if you don't understand what it really means, like not holding a debt, or like you have to cancel the debt and not hoping that person pays and hoping for good. I'm like, I don't think I was hoping for good for him for a while. I mean, it's not like I wanted him to die or anything, but I was like, how could I find nobody?
Yeah, look at he's now rich.
I mean, like,
no way she's better than me.
Yeah, he can't find anything better than me or something like that. But it's finding that, realizing like, okay, you know what? I actually have to look for good for this person and pray for them. I think Seppo was one who said it, like, if you want to forgive someone, pray for them first.
Oh gosh. And then after that, he's like, and that's why I don't pray for this person. I'm sorry if he hears this.
Sorry, we didn't mean to mention names. You can bleep the name out if you want. But yeah, so I think it was coming to that realization, and I think as you grow older, you find yourself finding it harder to forgive, because as time goes on, you have a lot you're thinking about, a lot you're doing, and then essentially some of these things just feel like, man, why would you do this to me? I already got a lot going on. Why would you add this to me? And so it gets easier for you to hold a grudge. Before it would be petty things like, so you stole my sweet, you did this, but now it's more like, you broke my heart. And why would you do that? Like, I'm a beautiful person. Why would you do that? And stuff like that. So I think it gets harder because you start, like the self thing, you start seeing yourself as your self-worth. It's good to have self-worth, but your self-worth sometimes gets over the top, or you start thinking like, I shouldn't be going through certain things, but like, you're just human, so just like everybody else. So he goes through heartbreak.
Who is this person?
I actually also want to find out.
Who is this person?
Do I know him?
Catch me after the podcast.
Is he in the room now?
No. He's safe where he's at. That's for sure.
Okay, cool. Lumba, any personal stories about forgiveness, or you experiencing either someone wrongs you or you have wronged someone, and how did you go about that?
I mean, I'm not proud of this, but also before reading about this, it was like, I thought I forgave this person and that person. Well, a long list of people to forgive. But I guess for me, usually it's just, I'll just pack it up, whatever. Like, there's this feeling of like helplessness or hope. Like, there's no point, you wronged me and like I can't get back at you and I can't tell people because first of all, I shouldn't have been in this situation. So,
Are you going to tell us what the situation was?
No, I'm not.
Just give a.
I mean,
something.
Something. Well, okay,
like
so.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one is, I come from a dysfunctional. Well, I think everybody comes from a dysfunctional family in some way, in some sense. But yeah. So I come from a very dysfunctional family. So it was more of like, okay, there's nothing I can do, you know. These are my parents, so I'm just gonna like pack it up. And then as for what's the other one? Well, the other one is also to do with relationships. So it was also like, there's nothing I can do. First of all, I shouldn't have been in this situation. Therefore, it's my fault. So I think sometimes I resort to blaming myself, I guess, to make myself feel better. Like, okay, I can't do nothing, so I can't punish you, so maybe I'll punish myself. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah. What was the question?
The conversation.
How did you do about forgiving if
personal
you have?
story how did you go about forgiving, like from the family side, from the relationship side? What did that look like?
For on the family side, I feel like I'm still trying to figure it out, because I think it was you I was telling like 2 weeks ago. It was more of like, I actually love my dad, you know, like I granted he's done all these things and I haven't like figured it out. Like I can't really pack it, but like I can't help but love this person. Honestly, it's not because I've been working on it. I think it's just God's grace, you know. It's just like, I love this man. I pray for him. I want the best for him. I'm happy to talk to him, you know. So I think I'm getting there, but there's also like, but he did all this stuff, so like it's so confusing. And then as for like relationships and friendships, I've, you know, doing my research on forgiveness has been enlightening. So it's like, it goes beyond just like, you know, canceling the debt. Like there's also wanting good for this person, still loving this person, you know, not just being respectful and everything. Like I'll say hi, but like, you know, I'm just not gonna wish the best for you.
Okay. Thank you for those, not necessarily stories, but those glimpses into your lives, which is really good.
What about you?
I know. Back to you.
It's I would say I've experienced both actually. So family as well, dysfunction in a sense, relationships, past mistakes on my part and on the people's part. I would say what I would talk about is struggling with forgiving myself, right? In the sense that things that I have done, obviously sin, right? Mistakes, failures. And so there was definitely a point in my life where I was, remember where we came from, where we started, right? It's like we forgive because God has forgiven us. And so I was in a point in my life where I had prayed and asked God to forgive me, but I couldn't forgive myself. Where I was constantly, I believe that God says if you confess, He will forgive you, right? 1 John 1:9. If you confess with your mouth, He will forgive you. But for some reason, it kept replaying in my mind. It kept, but I did this, but I said this. And so it was a cause of great pain. Not being able to forgive myself. And something that helped me as well is not necessarily, how do I put this? It was just dwelling in the fact that if God has forgiven me, then it's all clear. It doesn't make sense to linger on things where God clearly is the final judge. I can judge myself, but what good would that do to me? Others could judge me for all they know or don't know. But if God is the final judge, then there is no point in wallowing. And I feel like I feel like this is also the reason why I'm bringing this up as my experience. Is I know a lot of people struggle with this as well. Is that you've done so many things in your past, you've experienced things, failed, said things, especially like words, right? And we can tend to live with that, and so we are the wrongdoer that we are failing to forgive. And my encouragement is that if you have asked genuinely God to forgive you, He has forgiven you. I think one of the most encouraging passages about forgiveness that I didn't list, but God is saying, I think it's in the Psalms. He talks about how I have lost your sins in the sea of forgetfulness. It is like, just think of how vast the sea or an ocean is. And so if it's like dropping a coin in, the Kafue River or the Atlantic Ocean, you're never going to find it. That is a picture of God's forgiveness. And I think it's encouraging to, if God has lost my sins,
Yeah.
I can forgive myself. Yeah. So we've actually in just this space of time we've gone through so many of the questions that I had.
Wow, beautiful.
The second question,
I mean, yeah, thank you. Bye, guys.
not yet, relax. The second question was going to be why should we forgive one another, but I think we've definitely answered that. I want us to, we've touched on this briefly, but I want us to go deeper into how can we forgive. How can we forgive? So I'm going to list a couple of situations where I have been immensely hurt by someone. Immensely hurt.
So like these are like
Deeply
your stories,
hurt.
like
Sorry?
I'm saying, are those like your stories? You're saying these are situations where you've been immensely hurt.
No. Well, I definitely have been, but I'm just for the person out there.
Okay.
So you're just listing.
So I was just like, wait, is this DJ's
I know,
therapy
right?
session?
Like, what's happening? Like, okay, talk to us.
I'm good. No worries. I'm good. But I'm thinking of the person out there that has, again, been immensely. There are two examples that I can give. You started business with someone. You put in your hard-earned money and cash and time. And for example, this person ends up stealing from you, right?
This economy.
And so imagine, right? Dollars
with
are
dollars.
You want to steal from me, sad. But
No.
Come on, man. Love somebody.
it's a situation where let's say they steal from you, and either they get caught, they bring back they return the money, or
it's
maybe
fine.
they don't return the money. They got it's really fine.
Wait. Continue. Let's hear this.
Yeah.
Okay,
So basically, this person has done such a great, like a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even just that much stealing, and then no matter what the consequences, you have to end up forgiving them. Or it's a relationship, not even a breakup, but they cheat on you.
Oh dear.
They lie to you. They tell you that they are 28 when actually they're 21 years old. Oh, they tell you that they.
AJ.
No.
There's something
These are
we should know.
hypothetical guys out there. I went on Reddit and checked out people.
That's a rabbit hole.
So
Carry on.
the idea is the wrong is very clear. And
Yeah.
this is a reality. Some acts are definitely easier to forgive, and others aren't. Right? We could even go as deep as in a marriage setup where you have been married to someone for years, and either there's infidelity or they just do something. Right? How can we go about forgiving? And how? I'm not just talking about just think of practical steps. How can we forgive?
Practical steps.
Yeah.
Sorry, this reminds me of of a song.
Okay. Yeah.
Tammy knows the song.
Hopefully it's not by Taylor Swift.
There's no by. I don't know her
You don't
name,
stand
but there
Taylor
is.
Swift on this
Hey, I'm walking out.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Oh gosh, this is my moment to slam the mic. I don't know her name, but I think Charlie Puth is there.
Oh yeah.
Tammy knows the lyrics.
Okay. It's essentially, it's like, I hope you find someone, you fall in love, and you love this person with all your heart. You think you're the one.
Propose to them.
Then you're ready to go, like, it's you, it's it. And then she
cheats.
Wow.
said,
Just
what?
like
It's
like hey, it's an actual song.
It actually is.
So that's not the way. In short, that's not the way to go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
so not there.
it's a really nice, catchy song.
But you're
and,
just like,
it's
dang.
like no, that's not the way to
That's
go.
not the way.
Recognizing a very bad.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I would start with pray. I think we tend to not, I won't say hold prayer highly, but I think we tend to not realize that some of these things are, I won't say spiritual fights or something like that, but essentially they are things that we can't do in our own power.
Okay.
I can't forgive someone even if I wanted to, unless I know what forgiveness is, and that is because I'm saved and I know God has forgiven me. So I have that picture, even that understanding of what forgiveness really is. I mean, you can assume forgiveness is like letting go and doing this and just moving on and just not holding, like canceling debt. But to truly forgive someone, like I think there's a saying, to err is human, but to forgive is divine, because it is divine. Like, how can we actually forgive without actually going to the person who has actually forgiven us and forgiven us a whole lot and in the most perfect way? So I would say first start to pray. Pray for yourself to have the heart to forgive. Pray for that person. Just in general, you may not ask about forgiving them. You can just start with, Lord, I want to pray for this person's name, and then just say, like, that he's still alive.
Yeah.
You can start with small things.
Hopefully he's not dead.
Yes, and hopefully it's not dead.
Yeah.
Or that that you created such a person. Just starting from something small, and eventually that might bring you to love that person as you're called to love, because the Lord says love your enemies and your friends and your neighbors. So if they become your enemy, you still gotta love them. So regardless, it is hard.
There's no winning with God.
Enemies and neighbors. So yeah, start with praying, and I think that's the most practical way, because I think the Lord is faithful and He will guide you on how to with scenarios. You can't really say for sure how things will go, because I think even with the person you have a business together, you steal, that him stealing in itself may not be the real reason why you can't forgive. It may be the fact that after he stole, you went into debt, or you were homeless. Like, so many things build up, and then you start blaming that one person, obviously because they did start it all, or it felt like they started it all, but you have now experienced so many other things that have piled up, and now you're forgiving him for that led to that led to that and led to that. So yeah, just like pray is the first one.
Lost your wife,
Yeah.
she took the kids.
Everything you just
And
went
the
down.
She took the kids.
So yeah, like it'll be hard to say this is how you do it, because I won't lie, I have no idea either. I think the Lord has just been gracious enough to show me sometimes that, okay, you're not forgiving here, using whether it's community and friends to tell you, like, hey, the way you're acting is, one, you're sinning against God and against the person that you actually are blaming or saying that has sinned against you. Because I think the idea is that we assume that when someone wrongs us, they're sinned against us, and then we ourselves are not sinning when we don't forgive, but we are. So you're sinning you're sinning as a reaction to someone who has sinned. So it's like, what are you really doing? You're doing the same thing the person has done to you.
Okay.
And exactly, you're sinning and you're sinning.
Just like, man,
You're not
fixing the
gaining
situation.
anything. And so yeah, I think praying is definitely the first. I mean, it depends on the scenario. Someone who's hurt you deeply, you just
I think we should go for ice cream after this.
Yeah, no, I need
Sponsored by DJ.
Guys, share our videos so they can take
share, subscribe, because guys, I need it. Help me as I've helped you. Okay, please. I'm just joking. But yeah, so I would say pray first, and seek counsel. 100% seek counsel.
Yeah.
You can't do it on your own, and I think it's a mistake to think you can do anything as a Christian on your own.
Okay.
The Lord is faithful and He will guide you. Yes, if you're in a situation where you have nobody, that's hard. But the Lord is faithful and He is with you. But He has given you a community. That's why He says, be a part of a church, be a member, be in a ministry, because those things hold you accountable. And people can tell, like, okay, what's going on? Like, they can tell if you're bitter. They can tell if you're resentful, and they start asking questions. And if they care about you, they will ask further and deep, and like, just like, bro, what's going on? Why are you acting like this? Like for me in my situation, I think Lumba, you called me out at one point where she's like, what you're doing is not right. And I was like, but no, I'm in this, I'm in that. And she's like, no, your job is to
I made a 1,000 song playlist for him. It's like, how?
I did, but she was like, no, Tamara, you're sinning. What you're doing is disobedience. And I was just like, dang it.
There's no winning.
So I think having counsel, even if it's just close friends, or if you are hurt, like if it's really deep, like your friends can't even help you. You seek someone older who may have experienced it, or who has just wise wisdom. You can tell the people that just ask them, sir, look, I just need you to help me, because this I can't fathom. So I'd say those two things are the first steps. I don't know if you have other things to add.
I think another thing you could do is, I'm going to read Matthew 18 verse 15, and it says, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. You need you need to tell the person. I mean, don't go there and say you hurt me, you did this and this, that, out of spite and like wanting to hurt them. But like, let them know. I think you will feel much better. They may or may not, apologize. But I think also getting things off your chest helps. The Bible tells you to go tell them.
Absolutely. I really love that, especially for some strange reason, not just in the church, but in the world and in the church. When someone wrongs us, we tend to want to just avoid them entirely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? So all of a sudden, Lumba and I are hanging out, we're chilling and everything. Lumba says something that I really don't like, or she hurts me, and then she comes next week, hey DJ, how are you doing? And I was like, fine. So,
what do you want from me?
Yeah. And then can I come over to your place? No, I'm busy, or something like that, right? Like we tend to want to avoid the problem and avoid the person that has wronged us. And so all of a sudden now, we're not going over to their place, we're not hanging out. If I hear Lumba is going to be at the chill, I'm not going. Right?
I mean, I'm ashamed to say I'm not proud of this, but I have cancelled a show because that one person was there.
And you're going to make money at that
bro,
show.
I lost the whole 1,000. I am not proud of it, but I was so mad at that person. It was for a small thing, honestly, but and I think things would have been better had I talked to that person, just told them like, look, and I don't think the person knew they had hurt me. Yeah. So in telling them, sometimes people don't know that they've hurt you. Yeah.
And again, I think that's why it's a command, right? Like if your brother wrongs you, go to him. It's very humbling to be able to own, let me get my words straight.
Yeah.
Someone has wronged you, right? It goes back to the self-care thing where it's like if you have a high view of yourself, you don't want to bring yourself to that level to have to go and address it. But also when Jesus says go like one-on-one, what do we tend to do when other people wrong us? We go to other people.
Oh man, tell the whole church.
Do you know what?
You're hanging out with? Wait and see.
Did you know that guy?
He did, right?
Oh, man.
And that's a tendency. We don't want to address the problem with the person. We want to go and speak to other people about it. And then and this is what tends to happen, right? We won't address it. We go tell and gossip. And because of the gossip, it will end up getting back to the person, and then they will come to us like,
no, what you telling people about me? Let me tell them my side of the story.
And that's just how discord spreads, because there will be so many stories when you could literally sort out the problem. It doesn't even have to go to anyone else.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good thing to do, to be able to address it, to go to the person and talk through it. And I do think that it does help. Even if you don't end up reconciled, and we'll talk about this just right after this, even if you guys aren't like best buds after, or the relationship is different, at least it is addressed. I do think that sin, and the Bible says that sin dwells in the dark, and not just sin, even unforgiveness in our hearts. So if maybe you're not going out and gossiping or telling people about it, but you still resent the person. And it is actually a loving thing if someone wrongs you, for you to go to them and tell them, hey, what you said, what you did, that's not cool. I definitely I feel it shows love for you to be able to address problems like that. So just to recap, pray. Pray, and
pray hard.
Again.
Start with prayer.
Another time.
And then double that. As you're walking, pray. Talking to the person, pray.
Pray all the time. Seek counsel from other people. Is something that you said. Address the issue. Address the person and address the issue. As practical ways of how to forgive them. One thing
starting ways, because it might not just end there, but how to start it off.
Exactly. There's something that the last thing that I want to say on this of how can we forgive others is actually in Mark 11 verse 25, where Jesus says, and whenever you stand praying, forgive if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also who is in heaven may forgive you of your trespasses. That's actually not that's not the verse. Where is it? It's
Somebody didn't prepare.
Relax, guys. Relax. Anyway, I know it in my mind, so I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
Jesus is in the, I know it's somewhere in Matthew, but Jesus is saying, if you're about to give a sacrifice, right, to God, and you remember that your brother has something against you,
Yeah.
go to him.
Yeah.
Like, drop the sacrifice,
Leave it.
leave it, go and be reunited or reconciled with your brother before. Something that is interesting about that is that obviously Jesus was speaking to Jews, right? And giving sacrifices to God is a frequent occurrence. So it's not like, you just give one, you're at the altar, sacrificing once, and then you're done for the rest of your life, right? That's something that often happens.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I feel like that's how we can forgive, is that as often as we remember it, right?
Yeah.
As often as it comes up, forgive them.
Yeah.
I think it's a very, before you even do anything else, forgive them in your heart. If you can't go to them, and maybe if you've already addressed the issue, forgive them. Like, also in like Luke or Mark rather, Matthew, how many times should I forgive someone? 7 times, as many as 77 times.
Yeah.
And this is why the idea forgive and forget isn't practical.
No, it's not.
Because you must forgive every time it comes to memory.
Yeah. I think also the misconception or myth that you forgiving is a one-time thing. I think that might be something I may have fallen prey for. Like, it's like I forgave this person one time and that's enough. But like you're saying, it comes to, like, you can't forget. It's just not how we're built. We have a memory and we remember. So when you remember, continue to just say, okay, look, I forgive this person. Even pray, like, Lord, I'm sorry that, I'm still holding a grudge, or maybe I feel still a little something that comes to mind. And then just like, but I forgive this person and I'm trying to forgive, like, because you will do it continually. It's hard work. Forgiving is hard work. It's not easy. I think we really think it is because, Christians, it's like, hey, we can forgive.
When you talked about the sacrifice, I know it reminded me of this story. There's different variations of it, but basically, I think they're having Holy Communion, I think at a Reformed Baptist church. And the pastor's like, before we, partake, like, you can't come here and, take this without forgiving, and like, forgive, pray and everything. And like all the church members start walking up to each other, but most of them walk up to this one member.
Yeah, wow.
It's like everyone is just going to him.
I see. And like, wow.
I was like, I'm this one
I'll forgive you. Well, I hope you're not that member.
Hopefully.
I don't be that person.
Yeah. So I want 2 more questions. We need to wrap up, unfortunately. 2 questions. No, 1 question I'll let Lumba answer this one.
Why me?
Yes, spotlight. Do you think that after the forgiveness has happened, right? Someone has wronged you, reconciliation is a must. Is it always that if I have forgiven someone, we must get back to where we were before the wrong was? If not, why? In 2 minutes.
It's not always the case, stealing your answer again. So this in her notes.
So I really am answering the question.
Yeah, you're wrong person. But I think either in your notes or maybe talked about it. If somebody commits a great crime, let's say, oh gosh, I don't want to pick an example that will have the feminists attack me.
Yeah, no. Feel
Go
free to
for
attack her.
it.
It's fine.
But if I'm in an abusive relationship and this person hits me, maybe even steals from me and everything like that.
Yeah.
If we think reconciliation is a must, that means I have to forgive him, yes, and then like let's say it's a marriage and like, stay with this man, because like you have to forgive and like marriage is till death do you part. I'm not saying divorce, no, but you can't just stay in that house, especially if he feels like he didn't do anything wrong. No, you can't. It would be unwise. Yes, you can forgive him, and like you said, as often as it comes to your mind, this person wronged me. It's like, Lord, help me forgive them. You can do that, but you don't have to go back to being, to staying with him. Or if it's just like a terrible friendship, you don't have to go back to being like really close friends with this person. They have a bad habit of lying, of gossiping, and just like taking advantage of you, you know, I think you're being unwise going back and saying, no, but we still have to be friends. I have to tolerate this. No, you don't have to do that. Just like, look, I forgive you for what you did, but to you sort things out, to you get better, or to you stop what you're doing. I think it's best that we're not, you know, you're not good for me, you're not. And even just like when you get saved, you know this person is not helping you grow spiritually. You know, you want to keep away, but still pray for them. Pray that the Lord saves them. So it doesn't always have to happen.
Just to add one thing. I know it's not my question,
No,
but
please do.
I think when I was one of the things I was listening to on forgiveness was a sermon by Bodhi Balcom called Forgiveness, and he said that there are a number of myths that we as Christians believe when it comes to forgiveness, and one of them was that reconciliation and forgiveness are the same thing. They're not. You can forgive someone even before they tell you or they come to you and ask for forgiveness. You can forgive them. You can forgive them even after they've done that, but it doesn't mean that you are reconciled with them. It just means that you're forgiven them. You know, if the relationship doesn't go on as it used to be, it's fine as long as you know that here I'm not holding a grudge, and obviously I'm showing this person love. And because also, like, I think forgiveness or relationships are a two-way street. It's not just as only about you, it's also about the other person. So they can be there, but if they're choosing to still remain and do the things that are wrong, because the thing is that if they did wrong you and it was a sin, they did sin against you, and they are refusing to change or repent from their sin, they're okay with it. They say, I'm sorry, but they're still living in that sin. You as a Christian, you're called to call them out, but you're not called to be close friends and confidants. Maybe at first when you're close friends, you didn't know, but now you do. And you're like, okay, this person, I can't be this close with them. I can pray for them, I can still show them love, I can still be in their, like, you know, in their life. But it's the fact of the matter is that I can't be close like that because I know that they're sinning and they don't want to change or they don't want to repent. So the reconciliation won't always happen. And it may take a while, so like it doesn't happen immediately. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Friends. There's still hurts. There's still things.
It is possible to be
It is very much so. I think it depends on who that person is and the level of maturity, or even the level of grace the Lord is, you know, building. The way the Lord is building them. Maybe they've been through something over that side, and then you come and say, "Look, you hurt me," and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to," and they're like, "Please forgive me," and you get back to it. But it's different. I think because scenarios are very different, people are very different, so it's always being able to gauge what's going to happen in this. You can forgive. The command is to forgive. The Bible doesn't say reconcile. I mean, in some cases they do, but like it truly just says forgive. And
it's interesting even to think about, because when you think about our relationship with God, right? God doesn't just forgive us; we are reconciled. In 2 Corinthians 5, Paul is like, Christians are given, or ministers, like this is the ministry of reconciling. We are reconciling men to Jesus Christ, to God through Jesus Christ. And so even though God does forgive and reconcile us, it doesn't always have to be the same with us. Last question, and we're gonna end with this. So hopefully like a minute and a half each.
You might want to time me on that.
What are some of the consequences of unforgiveness? We know that if you are not forgiven, you are in sin, right? You are sinning against God. But what are some of the other effects or results of unforgiveness?
Grudges and revenge. Like if you don't forgive somebody, you're either gonna hold a grudge, which is, remember earlier I said, I'd feel helpless. There's nothing I can do about this. So you're either gonna hold a grudge, or you're gonna be like, I'm gonna get my revenge, and you're gonna hurt somebody. You're gonna sin, and it's just gonna get messy. So those two.
The same thing, I think, but I would put it in more bitterness and resentment. I think the grudge and the revenge has a physical manifestation, but resentment and bitterness sometimes doesn't. So oftentimes you might be like, I've forgiven this person because I'm not gonna do anything. But in your heart of hearts, in your heart of hearts, you have that bitterness and resentment. And like we said, it's a sin. So you're sinning, which means you're also sinning against God, and then that just, you're creating a rift between you and God, and you even feel it, like, oh, I feel so far away from him. And why is that? It's that grudge you're holding. It's that like resentment you have that person, because you're called to love and you're not loving. And you can tell as a Christian that, okay, something is off here, but you're just like...
Honestly, it's bitter. Like, resentment is bitter.
Yes,
it's bitter.
It's really... I think it's hard to really describe it. And I can say this because I've been resentful. And I think I would say it in the way I like to see it, because I'm a visual person. It was like gloom and doom. Like, my life just felt like... like, you know, nothing is happening. Like, I could see the blessings. I couldn't just experience them. It was just like, why is life so horrible? Why people so... And you can see, and you just find reasons to be like, oh, this person hurt me. Like, random things. You just be like, why is everyone against me? Why won't they love me right? Yeah, and it's not true. And then the moment you do forgive, you, like, it's like almost like, you know, scales falling off your eyes. You're just like, so why was I so, like, you know, like, why was I that? Like, you're just looking back, oh, never again. But yeah, so.
The one thing that I'm going to add as a consequence and a potential alarm of unforgiveness is, if you claim to be a Christian, if you fully understand that God has forgiven you of your sins and he has wiped them all away and he does not count them against you, and you are holding on to the wrong of this person, however great it may be, how is that possible?
Yeah.
If you have been so forgiven of every wrong that you have done, how can you claim to be a Christian and not do that, right?
Yeah, for someone else.
Like, how then is it possible to experience it and not display it?
Yeah.
It isn't, right?
Yeah.
If you truly have, and again, if you truly recognize that I have been forgiven, how can you experience this in your life and not display it? I think it's a call to check yourself.
Yeah.
Are you truly a Christian? Have you experienced the forgiveness of, like, that overwhelming sense of peace, right? That everything that I've done is lost in the sea of forgiveness. And again, it's a good, we started with this, and I think it's a good way to end the episode, where if we truly believe that we have been forgiven of our sins, there's nothing that any human being can do to us, right, that can weigh or measure against what we have done to God, right? And so it is a call for us to check ourselves and to examine our hearts. Are we truly Christians? Have we truly experienced the forgiveness of God? This amazing grace that we sing of, have we experienced in our lives? And if we have, then it means that we should be able to, they don't have to be willing sometimes, but because of God, right? It's like, okay, God, if it weren't for you, I would definitely not forgive this person.
Yeah. but because of you, I will.
We even tell them, thank God.
Yes.
Praise God. Like, if not for God.
If it weren't for God, we would have been, sitting on opposite ends of the table or something.
I'm here.
And honestly, it's like you make God out to be a fool.
Yeah.
Like, you sinned so bad that he had to send his son. You know, yours is, it's really, really big, and you can't forgive this. Like, then Christ died for nothing. You know. Yeah,
absolutely. It has been such an amazing time. Thank you so much, Lumba and Tamara, for joining me today.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you for sparing your time and your wisdom. It's been really good, guys. And thank you guys for joining us. Please like, share, subscribe, comment on your experiences with forgiveness or unforgiveness. Tell us or let us know what you think. And thank you guys.
thank you for having us,
Thank you
DJ.
for having us.